The witch trials of the Dark Ages remain one of the most haunting and fascinating chapters in human history. Between the 14th and 18th centuries, tens of thousands of people, mostly women, were accused of witchcraft, subjected to brutal interrogations, and executed in a wave of hysteria that swept across Europe. The witch hunts were not just a product of superstition and fear, but also a reflection of the societal anxieties and power dynamics of the time. The roots of the witch trials can be traced back to the publication of the Malleus Maleficarum in 1487, a treatise on witchcraft written by Heinrich Kramer, a German clergyman. This influential book provided a pseudo-legal framework for identifying, prosecuting, and punishing witches, and it became a handbook for judges and inquisitors. The book's misogynistic tone and emphasis on the supposed weaknesses of women further fueled the witch hunt, which disproportionately targeted females. The witch trials were not limited to rural areas or the uneducated. They often involved the active participation of the educated elite, including lawyers, judges, and clergy. In many cases, the accused were subjected to swimming tests or pricking tests to determine their guilt. The swimming test involved throwing the accused into a body of water. If they sank, they were deemed innocent, but if they floated, they were considered guilty and often executed. The pricking test involved searching for devil's marks on the accused's body, which could be any mole, scar, or other blemish. The witch trials were also closely tied to the politics and social upheaval of the time. In many regions, the trials served as a means for authorities to assert their power, distract from economic and social problems, and enforce social norms. Accusations of witchcraft often targeted vulnerable individuals, including widows, the elderly, and those on the fringes of society. These accusations could be sparked by anything from personal grudges to economic rivalries. One of the most infamous witch trials was the Salem witch trials, which took place in colonial Massachusetts in 1692. Over 200 people were accused of witchcraft, and 20 were executed before the trials were eventually brought to an end by Governor William Phips. The Salem trials are often seen as a turning point in the history of witch hunts, marking the beginning of a decline in the fervor that had fueled the trials for centuries. The impact of the witch trials on society was profound. They reinforced patriarchal power structures, perpetuated fear and superstition, and led to the deaths of countless innocent people. The trials also had a lasting impact on the way people thought about and treated those deemed other, or outsiders. The legacy of the witch trials can still be seen in modern-day anxieties about power, control, and the other. Despite the widespread hysteria, there were voices of reason and dissent throughout the witch trials. Some critics, like the English writer Reginald Scott, argued that witchcraft was nothing more than a delusion and that the trials were unjust. Others pointed out the lack of empirical evidence and the reliance on dubious tests to determine guilt. These voices of reason would eventually contribute to the decline of the witch trials. The end of the witch trials was also facilitated by changes in the intellectual and cultural climate of Europe. The Enlightenment, with its emphasis on reason, science, and empirical evidence, helped to undermine the superstition and dogma that had fueled the trials. As the scientific method gained acceptance, the notion of witchcraft as a supernatural force began to lose credibility. Today, the history of the witch trials serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of mass hysteria, false accusations, and the unchecked power of authorities. It reminds us of the importance of critical thinking, intellectual skepticism, and the protection of human rights. The witch trials may be a dark chapter in human history, but they offer valuable lessons for the present and the future.